Some brief entertainment before we get into the crypto coring picker report. It may remind you of the market action today. Yes, that would be China declaring all cryptocurrency exchanges to be illegal, and that's what the market does when that happens. Boom! Ow! I always felt bad for the little wily coyote fella. In any case, let's take a look really quickly before I get into today's full-fledged report about how oversold we are. The market is a coiled spring. Should there not be any more, guns pointed at the head of all cryptos and crypto traders, so to speak? Definitely on the balance of power, it's looking to reverse. EFI is, it's not fully 100% extreme, but it's about 97% extreme. Stochastic RSI is just banged limit down and is looking for a reversal. The EMA stretch is way out of whack. This is on a daily basis. So to me, it appears that we are definitely looking, even on a downtrend, even for a downtrend, we're still looking to pop over 9,000 again. May not happen, of course, but that's what the markets appear to be saying. Now, on a weekly basis, we're not as oversold. In fact, on a weekly basis, the stochastic RSI says we are oversold, but EFI actually shows sellers are in control, although slight upward bias moving towards buyers, but definitely sellers in control. We're not as dramatically oversold, although we're the balance of power is still strongly on the side of sellers, looking a little bit like buyers are going to be gathering in. But on the EMA basis, we definitely would have a way to go on the weekly basis. So we are, appear to be heading down. However, on a daily basis, I could see a spring back, but weekly basis, not so much. So, if you're a short-term trader, you could be in for a bounce. For a longer-term trader, I wouldn't really bother. The CCI still could go farther down on a weekly basis. So on a down, in terms of the overall picture, down is generally the way it's headed on a longer-term basis. Let's look at Ethereum versus actually BTC really quickly, and then we'll get back to something interesting. Actually, Ethereum is on a weekly basis, perhaps even overbought still, and could definitely drop. I mean, it still has positive momentum relative to BTC, but it's at the top of the channel. So on a weekly basis, Ethereum versus BTC, it looks like it's got some like it has a potential switch. On a daily basis, it is just at the point where it could cross over the moving average. It does have a bit of a positive bias towards buyers, but still sellers are more in control. Sellers are more in control here, and we really haven't bottomed long enough to say that a reversal would be in order. So I could see a trend continuing on this, that ETC could be on a daily basis, or ETH rather, could still be losing ground relative to BTC, which seems to have been what's been happening. But the reason I brought up this cartoon was because the market is suffering from something that I've talked about for a long time, governments yanking support, if that was one aspect, but really going after cryptocurrency exchanges and crypto traders as criminals. That's something I've talked about for a long time. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go through this really quickly here. Something that I've been talking about for a while. And I'd be really curious to anybody in the video who's watching what your opinion is on this. So comment below, definitely. And I'll go through this really quickly because I'd like to keep this to like a 6 or 7 minute max. Basically, I think we have a real fundamental value versus speculative value. And let me bounce on that really quickly. I'm going to bounce back to this, but I'll just tell you what I've calculated for the actual value of DigexDAO. The actual value for anyone buying DGD, this gives us an idea of how insane the crypto valuations were based on just rough calculations. And I'm open to anybody correcting me, but rough calculations are that for every DGD you buy, you're getting basically 0.00071 dollars of actual return to the holder. So you're paying hundreds of dollars, a high of 466 down to around 220 for that fraction of a penny of a return. Insanity. Insanity. So that just gives you an idea how far the speculative froth had gone versus the real froth, versus the real value. Okay? So now we're basically in a battle between the free use of whatever currency we choose and government regulations and restrictions. All of us have to decide which one we're willing to go with. I'm obviously for free use. If I want to use Litecoin or I want to use, not Bitcoin, but any other Dash, PIVX, Monero, Zcash, whatever, I should be right. I should have my right to do that. And I think anybody else should. The government, of course, wants to restrict that. So that's one of the battleground. Crypto fiat conversion versus the banks. The banks don't want to allow us to convert crypto into fiat. I think we have to have a distributed system to do it. I've thought of some ideas. Anybody who has some ideas, put it in the comment section and we can figure it out. Crypto decentralized newcomers versus centralized establishment. For instance, Steemit is going head to head with YouTube, Facebook, that kind of thing. I mean, it's not quite the same, but it's the same idea. And that's a decentralized, of the people, by the people, for the people, versus all the money's aggregating up to Mark Zuckerberg and Google and the stock market and the holders. So we're basically a battle of decentralized newcomers versus centralized establishment. And there's a little bit of a battle going on between the big projects, those projects versus the altcoins. I don't think that's that major of a deal, except for the fact that BTC and LTC have kind of cozied up with the powers that be. XRP is definitely centralized. Ethereum, not so much. Dash has I shouldn't have done that. Dash is a very small, is held by a very small group of people. So that's kind of why I lumped it in there. But, I don't have anything against Dash. I think Dash has done a lot of good stuff. I like Dash, but I'm just letting you know they're very centralized. Decentralized versus co-opting cryptos for centralized apps. Basically what I'm getting at is if a cryptocurrency like Neo says, hey, I'm going to work with the Chinese government and we're going to tag everybody in the world and make them all part of the blockchain, I think that's horrible. That's centralizing what should have been a decentralized idea. We have the ICO system versus the IPO system. Basically, the ICO system is free and open. You come up with an idea and people like the idea, they'll contribute and support it. Versus the IPO, which is all government regulation, all creativity squashed. And yeah, there are a lot of scams, but you know what? I mean, if people don't do the research and they get suckered into it, that's not, I don't want anybody to get scammed, but that's part of the process. Let's just call it that. And of course, in the IPO centralized world, the whole thing is a scam, basically. The governments behind it are scam, the regulators are scam, they'll only serve their buddies, etc. Here's the big one. The theory of what cryptos can do actually versus what's been delivered. Now, we're in the phase where people have to start delivering results. I think we can all agree with that because promises are not flying anymore in the market. Here's the other one, and it's not that big of a deal, but basically the use of cryptos is pretty well restricted to people who are very technical at this point. Like women are not as involved, and they're getting more and more involved, and I think it's great, but it's usually been, the nerds started it, and nerds are still ruling it, and I think it has to spread, versus the establishment isn't on board with all that technology, and they want to co-opt it, and they want to squash it, and they don't want the power decentralized. And then this is a bigger picture one, but basically what we're seeing in the stock market and bonds is that the existing economy is kind of shaking at its foundations, and the new economy is destined to probably be a combination of cryptos backed by precious metals. Digex DAO is, maybe a step in the right direction. I just showed you that the value is ridiculous. So let's get back to, well, you know what? I think that concludes it. I don't want to talk about all this other stuff here. But the point of all this is that we are due for a spring back. Ethereum and a lot of the altcoins could continue down, but we're due for a spring back for Bitcoin. The overall market has to recover from the shock of what went on in China. As I said a long time ago, I don't see us recovering the high for $830 billion anytime immediately. But I do see February being a little bit more kind towards the middle and late end of the month. I can see the market recovering significantly. So go ahead, if you would, hit the subscribe button, but definitely sign up for coinpicker.us, my email list. Yeah, go ahead and click on that. Sign up for my email list so that you are kept abreast of my my daily updates, where I pretty well tell you what the market's more than likely going to do. I've been telling my subscribers for a while, ever since the high, I said, look, we're headed down, and that's where we're going. Here are some trades on the way up and down, but we're headed down. And so everybody who's been subscribed to my list knew about that. And when you subscribe, you too will know about it. You'll also know when it's time to buy in to the best of my ability. I mean, I'm not perfect. And I don't give anyone financial advice, but I do let you know what I'm doing. And I also let you know what the trends are in the big picture and for the near time. So that is coinpicker.us. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, and sign up for my newsletter, and I will talk to you tomorrow.